Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to lesson 5 in your Diploma in English for Business, guys. And tonight we are going to look, as I said, at the second part of our formal English for Business writing. Now, I've done some already before the webinar, but let's do one final sound check and just make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear, guys. So if you can hear me nice and clearly, just put a big yes or a big hello into your question box there and let me know that you can all hear me loud and clear, guys. As I mentioned in the last webinar, some of you may be trialing our new webinar system, and that's why things may look a little bit different. So it'll be great to get feedback and see if everything is working just as it should. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. I can see lots of yeses coming in, lots of people saying it looks better, it sounds better. Okay, brilliant. That's what this test is for, just to check if it will be better than the system we have been previously using. So guys, without further ado, let's get into tonight's lesson and start as we always do with a recap of the last lesson, which was the introduction to formal English for business writing, where we learned all about formal English for business writing. We learned about the format of it. We studied stylistic conventions, and you were exposed to connectors and linking devices. Then in the grammar, we never have a lesson without grammar, we looked at relative clauses, so defining and non-defining relative clauses. And of course we had lots of new terminology and my fantastic pronunciation to support it throughout. And guys, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who interacted on Twitter and YouTube with the week 2 interaction. So as you would have seen in the video, there was 2 things that were incorrect in the email. The sign off was of course incorrect. It said yours faithfully, where it should have been yours sincerely because we knew the recipient's name. But there was also a comma in the relative clause, and it was a defining relative clause, so there should not have been a comma. Now, a lot of people wrote to me on Twitter saying that the mistake was the use of the abbreviation ASAP or ASAP, and I'd just like to point out that this is a perfectly acceptable abbreviation to use in emails. It is like using VIP or RSVP, okay? So, the use of the abbreviation ASAP is perfectly acceptable in that email. Okay, so what about tonight's lesson, guys? Well, we will further develop your formal English for business writing skills. You will explore English punctuation and every single bit to do with that. You will learn how to structure reports and proposals, and we'll of course have samples included. And then we'll have lots of grammar tonight. You'll be exposed to adverbs and the definite and indefinite articles. And then you will also learn about the present perfect simple. All of this, of course, will be supported with my pronunciation, and we'll have a lot of new terminology. And then we'll finish with the summary, the next steps, and the question and answers round at the end, okay? So there's some people writing in about sound problems, okay? Let me just see. So can people hear me clearly? So I have done 3 sound checks before the lesson, and the majority of people are saying yes, that they can hear me loud and clear. Okay, perfect. So without further ado, let us start tonight's lesson, and we're going to jump straight in with punctuation, guys. We are going to look at English punctuation, and this is something that throws a lot of non-native speakers off and can make them worry about their writing abilities because they don't know how to use punctuation correctly. Well, do not worry about this, guys, because we're going to learn all about it tonight, and you guys will be professionals by the end. So let's start with the easy ones. Capital letters. So guys, when do we use capital letters? Right into those question boxes now. When do we use capital letters? So we're starting off with the easiest ones. Okay, so I'm seeing names. Okay, I'm seeing proper nouns, cities, countries. Okay, at the beginning of a sentence, Mahmoud says. Okay, Anka is very excited about the punctuation. Brilliant. Well, guys, we use capital letters in a few different situations. We use them at the start of a sentence, of course. We also use them to identify important nouns, so proper nouns, usually the name of something. We use it for titles, and we use it for abbreviations, okay? So for example, the English for Business course will help you become a better professional. So, the English for Business course, that is the title. The English for Business course. So that's why it gets capitalized. Also here, we've got CEO, which of course is an abbreviation for Chief Executive Officer. So we use capital letters for abbreviations, just like ASAP, like we had in the Class 2 challenge. Now, someone has already asked about the full stops here in the abbreviation CEO. And that's a very good question. You do not need to include the full stops here. So if you are using an abbreviation, it is up to you whether you prefer to use the full stops or not. Okay, so with VIP, ASAP, it's completely up to you whether you use the full stops. Now, speaking of full stops, when do we use these? Now, this is probably the easiest of all the punctuation to understand. So when do we use a full stop, guys? Exactly. Okay, Sebastian was the first person I saw there. We use a full stop, of course, at the end of a sentence. Yes, everyone is writing it in. Now we use a full stop at the end of a sentence. Very simply. And an example here, punctuation is important in formal writing, which of course it is. Now, next up, guys, we've got the question mark. Now, question mark is very simple, and it replaces a full stop when we are asking a question. So you never use a question mark and a full stop. The question mark replaces the full stop when you are asking a question. And an example here, why are you studying the English for Business course? So, why are you all studying the English for Business course? Is it to improve your English language? Is it to improve your confidence in a business setting? So there's lots of reasons people take the English for Business course. Some even just take it to refresh their knowledge of the English language. Now, what have we got next, guys? We've got the exclamation mark. So, the exclamation mark is not used very often in formal English writing, okay? But we still need to know. So, an exclamation mark, like a question mark, it replaces the full stop. And we use it to express strong emotion, and it's generally for short, informal sentences. For example, study smart, or congratulations, or something like that, a short, informal sentence. So, you don't need to worry about it very much for formal English writing because we would very rarely use it. Next up, guys, we have the comma. Now, the comma can cause a lot of problems. It is easy to use in its most basic form, but it is also the piece of punctuation that has the most uses, okay? But all we care about is that it separates lists or sentences. So it separates lists or sentences or clauses, the parts of a sentence. For example, A successful company needs good employees, a vision, resources, and a good management team. Okay, so this is a list of things a successful company needs. Now, before you ask, look at here between resources and the word and. Should there be a comma here, guys? What do we think? Who can tell me? Should there be a comma here? Okay, I've Ali saying no. A lot of people saying no. Alexandros saying yes. Okay, well, just so you guys know, you can include a comma here. And what we call it is the Oxford comma. So it's completely up to you and your stylistic convention of how you write. You can include a comma after the penultimate item, the second last item on the list. And that is called the Oxford comma. Exactly, Sharvan. It does not need a comma. It's up to you, but just make sure you are consistent, as with everything we do. Just make sure you are consistent. So I generally do not include the Oxford comma, but if you want to include it, that's completely up to you. Some people prefer it, okay? Now, next up, we have the apostrophe, guys. Omar is saying that's new to him. Well, don't worry about it, Omar, if it is new to you. You just stick with what you're comfortable with, okay? Whichever you are more comfortable with, then use that, okay? Just be consistent. So the apostrophe we use for two different reasons. We use it to denote possession, so ownership, or we use it for contractions. And of course, we know contractions is the omission of letters. So for example, do not becomes don't. So that is contractions. I am becomes I'm. You are becomes you're. We use an apostrophe to replace the omitted letters. Okay? But what about possession? Look at this. The company's objectives must be tangible. Now, tangible just means realistic, okay? The company's objectives. The objectives belonging to the company. So that's why we've got the apostrophe S. You are all attending Mark's class. So it would be Mark apostrophe S. Now, guys, this is the objectives of one singular company. Okay, a single company. Now, what if this was two companies or three companies and we wanted to say the objectives of the companies? How would we write that? So if it was the plural companies, IES, who can tell me how we would write that? Okay, brilliant. Allah is the first person I saw with the correct answer. Yes, exactly, Enas. Brilliant, Samaya, brilliant. You're all very good. It would be companies, IES, and then the apostrophe placed after the S. Exactly, Justine, just like that. So we would never use S apostrophe S. If a word is already plural, so it ends in S, then we just put the apostrophe after it. Exactly, Rana. So a lot of you know this already. That's great to see. Now, next up, guys, we have the colon. Now, the colon can confuse people and also the semicolon, but there's no need for them to be confusing. So we use a colon to introduce a long list or to introduce the second part of a sentence which defines the first part. So to introduce a long list, we know that. But to introduce the second part of a sentence which defines the first, what do we mean by this? Well, look at this example. Never forget this point. Practice makes perfect. So, the second part of the sentence defines the first. Never forget this point. Practice makes perfect. That is the point that you should never forget. So it defines the first, okay? Now, next up, we have the semicolon. Now, the semicolon can cause trouble, but the good thing to notice about the semicolon is it can be avoided a lot of the time. So, to link two independent clauses so that they become one, or to separate long lists. So, let's look at the first one. To link two independent clauses so that they become one. So look at this example. The organization made a loss last year, whereas this year they made a profit. So it's two independent clauses, and we are linking them using a semicolon. Now, what about to separate long lists? Well, it's quite simple. If you have items in a list, we saw that you use a comma. But what if the items in your list use a comma already? So what if some of the items in your list have a comma in them? Then it would look very confusing to try and separate them with a comma. So that's why we would use a semicolon to separate lists of long items. Then we've got brackets, guys, or parentheses. So parentheses are actually the correct word, is actually the correct term for brackets, okay? But in everyday English, we just say brackets. Now, what do we use these for? We use them to introduce extra ideas or information. So the sentence could exist without the information in brackets. It's extra information. For example, the manager wants the employees to achieve the company targets, even if they are unrealistic. Okay? So the manager wants the employees to achieve the company targets. You could end the sentence there, but some additional information, even if they are unrealistic. And always remember, if the sentence is finishing with the brackets or parentheses, then the full stop goes after. It doesn't go here after targets, it goes after the brackets, okay? So that's something to remember. And then our last page here. So we've got the dash, guys. Now, there is a dash and there is a hyphen. And they are both actually the same button on the keyboard. And Microsoft Word or whatever program you use will usually autocorrect to whether it should be a dash or a hyphen. So we use a dash in a similar way to brackets, so for additional information, or we use it to create a pause for dramatic effect. So what that means, it doesn't apply in formal English writing necessarily, but if you were writing a speech or if you were writing a dialogue, you would use a dash to create a pause, to indicate a pause. So let's look at an example here. John was a good leader, but not a good listener. So, if you wanted, that could be in brackets. You don't necessarily need to use the dash. And how we signify a dash, there is a space. Sentence, space, then you've your dash, and then a space. So, John was a good leader, but not a good listener. And notice the pause. Now let's look at the hyphen, guys. Now, we saw hyphens already in lesson 1. And we used them to join two or more words to make a compound noun or adjective. Okay? And let's look at the examples. We have ex-manager or well organized. So we have a compound noun and a compound adjective. And there is no space. This is all one word. Ex-manager with no space. So you can see, guys, that the hyphen is a little bit shorter than the dash. And they are the exact same button on the keyboard as I said. Microsoft Word or whatever program you use will automatically adjust to whether you have put a space in, then it will be a dash. If you haven't, then it will be a hyphen. Okay? And finally, guys, we have quotation marks. And these are used very simply to quote direct speech or someone else's words, or to denote the name of a book, film, song, etc. Okay? So, for example, that was an incredible achievement, said the owner of the company. So, it is quoting direct speech. It is quoting someone else's words. That was an incredible achievement, said the owner of the company. So, guys, let's have a question on punctuation to make sure that you are all keeping up with me. So, which of these sentences has a punctuation mistake? Motivated employees are more productive. Confidence, hard work, determination, and leadership will help you in your career. If a company has a creative idea, it can be successful. Finally, you need to collaborate with your colleagues to succeed. An enterprise can make a profit if it has good employees. So guys, which of these has a punctuation mistake? What do we think? Lots of good answers. Anita, Fatma, Hosham. Brilliant, Allah, Thomas, Muhammad. It is, of course, number 2. Confidence, hard work, determination, and leadership will help you in your career. But guys, what is the mistake? What is the mistake? What should be there? What's missing or what's extra? What makes this sentence incorrect? And Lamis is saying the comma. Marine is saying there's a comma missing. Or Marino, I should say, sorry. And of course, there is a comma missing after hard work. Confidence, hard work, determination, and leadership will help you in your career. So, 2 different items in the list. They should be separated by a comma. So, very good work to everyone who got that correct. So guys, that's enough about punctuation. And now we're going to move in to the 2 items that we're looking at for formal English for business writing today. And they are reports and proposals. So we're going to look at language and conventions of reports and proposals. Okay? So what are the conventions used for these? Well, both provide factual, unbiased information, but a proposal aims to make recommendations. Okay? So, unbiased means no opinions. So, both of them provide factual, unbiased information. Information with no opinion. But a proposal aims to make recommendations. So, both of them are very similar, but of course, a proposal aims to make recommendations. So, like every piece of writing we looked at, there's an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion, guys. So remember I said in the last lesson, the introduction is tell me what you're going to talk about. The main body, talk about it. And the conclusion, tell me what you have just talked about. Okay, so reports and proposals are no different. They follow this same structure. Now, both of them have a very similar structure, but it is particular. And this is what is different from what we have seen before. You have a title with a report and a proposal. So at the very top, there will be a title. Maybe it's Sales Report for 2015. Okay, so maybe that's your title. But also, each paragraph will have a heading, okay? So, unlike the other things we've looked at, like letters and emails, each different paragraph is going to have a heading. So whether it's introduction or whether it's conclusion at the end, they will have a heading. We always have an introductory paragraph stating the purpose of the report or proposal. So this will be your introduction. And the introduction in a report or proposal is going to tell the reader what will be contained in it. Then it will have preceding paragraphs, maybe stating findings and results. Okay, so one paragraph might talk about the problem. Another paragraph might talk about a study conducted, and then another paragraph might have the findings or the results of the study, okay? And remember, for proposals, you're going to include recommendations. So that's what a proposal is all about. You are proposing something. You are making a recommendation. Now, what else do we have? So, just like all the other pieces of writing we did, whether it was an email or a formal letter, you have to plan your writing. You have to be clear and coherent. And remember, coherent just means logical. Sequence or link your ideas using connectors or linking devices, just like we looked at in lesson 4. Of course, use paragraphs. Like every piece of writing, use paragraphs. It helps to show how many different ideas you have when you're moving on to a different idea or topic. Paragraphs really structure your writing. Use a variety of vocabulary. Okay, and that's why we build up your terminology throughout the different lessons in this course. So you can use a variety of vocabulary. Use formal factual language. Remember, no opinions. This is all formal factual language. You should not be saying, I think this. This is wrong because I think it doesn't work. Okay, so it should be formal factual language. And of course, remember to self-edit, so read over it yourself and check if there's any mistakes or you want to move anything around. And of course, use the spell checker on your program. So if you're using Microsoft Word or anything else that I know a lot of people use Grammarly now, use your spell checker. Don't ignore it. It's there, it's at your disposal, so use it, guys. Now, before we look at an example report, let's look at some expressions that we can use in reports and proposals. So like always, I'm going to give you guys some useful phrases and expressions, and these will help you throughout different parts of the report or proposals. They're nice sentences for you to use. So, this report aims to summarize, or this proposal aims to summarize. This report is based on. The principal objective of this report is to provide a description of, or to present results of, or to assess the importance of. So depending on what the principal objective or aim or purpose is, these are nice sentences that you can use. Then of course, some linking devices. Firstly, secondly, finally. As always, these are very nice words to link your ideas and sequence your ideas. However, so a connector of contrast, however. Therefore, thus, and hence. So, they're all connectors and linking devices that we looked at in lesson 4. The following were the main reasons given for. So that is how you would start, for example, your first paragraph. We recommend or suggest or propose that. Another good line you can use in the recommendation part of your report. According to, we conducted a survey on, or we conducted research on. The arguments in favor of the new project are. The arguments against the new project are. So, the arguments in favor of the new project, or the arguments against the new project. The advantages are, or the disadvantages are. So we know what advantages and disadvantages are. And look at these words here, pros and cons. So the pros are and the cons are. And they are nice words that just mean the same thing as advantages and disadvantages. And before you ask, as everyone always does, pros and cons are not short for anything, okay? But they are nice words to use. The pros and cons, the positives and the negatives, the advantages and the disadvantages. Then, of course, you can finish up your final paragraph with in conclusion. So, the best way to open up your conclusion is to say in conclusion. Now, guys, a bit of vocabulary here. What's the difference between principle, P-A-L, and principle, P-L-E? So, what do we think, guys? Who can tell me the difference between P-A-L, principle, and P-L-E, principle? So, who can tell me? Let's get writing in those question boxes. Okay, Maureen, I can see, is the first person to guess British and US English, but it is not. So that's what a lot of people always think, but it is not the difference between British and American English, okay? Lots of people still writing that in. Okay, so let's look. Principle, P-A-L, can be two different things, a noun or an adjective. So it can be the principal aim, so i.e. the number one aim. So the number one aim or the principal aim, the first aim. Or as a lot of you said, it can be the principal of a school, the head of a school. Okay, exactly, Nicholas. The principal is the main thing. Exactly. And then principles, P-L-E, are your values, okay? What you believe in, your principles, your values. And we also use it for a scientific principle, okay? So a scientific principle is also P-L-E. So, for example, always stick up for your principles. Always stick up for your values, okay? Whereas P-A-L means the first or the main aim or the head of a school. Okay, so a lot of people get confused with those two. So I hope I've cleared it up for all of you now. And also we've got therefore, thus, and hence, which as we saw in lesson 4, just means so. It just means the exact same as so. So what we're going to look at now, guys, as I promised, is a sample report. Now, what I want you to look out for is everything we have just learned about reports. Look out for the titles. Look out for the headings of each paragraph. Look out for connectors and linking devices, phrases that we use, okay? Notice how the language is unbiased with no opinion. So, let's start off. Report on the Summer 2016 Work Experience Program. So that is the title, guys. Then we've got the heading for our first paragraph. Introduction. This report is based on feedback collected from participants in the Summer 2016 Work Experience Program. I aim to summarize these comments and offer some recommendations for future programs. So look what the introduction has done. You have told the reader exactly what the report is going to include. This report is based on, I aim to summarize. Now we're moving into the main body and we've got our first paragraph. Organization of the team. Firstly, most participants commented favorably on the diversity of the team and reaped the rewards of working in a multicultural environment. Several individuals mentioned that they had forged close relationships with their colleagues. However, a number of students would have benefited from completing an English for Business language course before beginning the program, as some communication problems were encountered. Furthermore, I propose that more time be allocated to complete the project. So look at those connectors and linking devices. Firstly, however, furthermore, okay? Now we've got the next paragraph, which is still the main body, and it's organization of the work. In general, students appreciated the opportunity to observe the operations of the company at first hand and commented on the helpfulness of the employees. It was felt by some individuals that the experience would have been more productive if students had been given more time in each department, as this would have enabled them to gain a deeper insight into the workings of individual departments. Moreover, participants sought to acquire time dedicated to exchanging ideas and experiences with other professionals in the organization. And then finally we have our conclusion, and the heading is very simply just conclusion. And look, exactly like I said, how we start a conclusion. In conclusion, feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and it is hoped that a similar program can be implemented in the future, taking into account the considerations above. So, that was our sample report, guys, and I know there was a lot of new terminology in there, so let's get straight to it. And remember, all of this is in your summary notes, or if you have those webinar slides from the toolkit, okay? To be based on means it came from another source. So, for example, the Harry Potter movies are based on the Harry Potter books. They came from another source. They came from the books. Feedback collected means advice or suggestions gathered together. Okay, so feedback collected means advice or suggestions gathered together. Okay, Mariham is asking about program spelt MME and program spelt Program. A very good question, Mariham. Program with a double M-E at the end is much more common in British English, whereas RAM would be much more common in American English. But they mean the same thing. They are the same word. Exactly. Noah has said it as I was typing. MME is British. Exactly. And Huda is asking how to pronounce the word appreciated. Appreciated, Huda. Okay? Appreciated. Okay, so program, MME, and program with just an M, they are the same word, just British and American English. Okay? A participant is somebody who takes part in or contributes to something. So you are all participants in this webinar. I aim to summarize means my objective is to give you the main details. Comments are what people said or wrote. Recommendations are, of course, suggestions. Favorably means positively, so they looked on the program favorably, they looked on it positively. Diversity means a variety or a mixture. So diversity in the workplace would mean men, women, old, young, and from all different nationalities. That would be diversity. To reap the rewards of means to gain or to get benefits from something. A multicultural environment means many nationalities sharing the same space, like the Shaw Academy offices here. Individuals are, of course, people. To mention is to say. To forge, as we saw in lesson 1, is to create. Colleagues are employees, staff, or professionals that work with you. A benefit is an advantage gained from something. And then look at this. Benefited with 1 T and benefited with 2 T's. Well, both spellings are acceptable according to Oxford Dictionary, okay? So, you will see this a lot in the English language and throughout the course, that Often a word in English, as it becomes more globalized, a word can be misspelled or mispronounced, and it can happen so much that it is generally accepted. Okay? And that's what happened here with benefited. And what we say is, we say that's bastardization. Okay? It gets changed, it evolves, and we call that bastardization. And through the bastardization of the English language, it is now acceptable to spell benefited with one T and benefited with two T's. And guys, be aware that bastardized is not a rude word. Okay, I always have students thinking that I'm cursing on the webinar. It is not a rude word. Okay, the bastardization of the English language just means the change through evolution. Okay, now we've got to encounter problems, means to experience or to have problems. Okay, and we have a lot of new terminology, so let's get through this. To propose is to suggest. To allocate means to share out or to divide. So to allocate responsibilities among your team is to share them out, to divide them out. To appreciate is to value. To observe is to watch. At first hand means from the original source. Productive means useful. To enable is to facilitate or to permit. To gain a deeper insight into means to understand something well. The workings of is, of course, how something works, its operations. Sought is the past simple or the past participle of the verb seek. So to look for, seek. And sought is the past simple or the past participle. To acquire is to get or to gain. To dedicate is to devote or to completely give yourself to someone or something. So to commit. So you've all dedicated to the English for Business course. You've all committed to it. You've all devoted to it. And I thank you all for that. Overwhelmingly positive means extremely positive. To implement means to introduce or to put in place. To take into account the considerations means to think about what was said. Okay? So lots of new terminology there, guys. And before we jump in to the sample proposal, I thought we should break it up with a bit of grammar, guys. Before jumping straight into that proposal, we'll break it up with a nice bit of grammar because we all love grammar, don't we? And we are going to look at adverbs, guys. So, what do adverbs do? Now, most of you will know this. It will just be a refresher. But they generally describe a verb and they typically end in ly, but not always. So remember, however is also an adverb. Times are also an adverb, like every week, or once a week, or every year, okay? So they don't always end in ly, but usually if you see ly, you know it's an adverb. So let's look at examples from the slides. Probably, favorably, overwhelmingly. Now, where do they go in a sentence? So, where do they go in a sentence, guys? Who can tell me? Where do adverbs go in a sentence? Now, oh yeah, lots of people answering this. Generally before the main verb, but not always. Okay, so usually an adverb will come before the action verb. Okay, but not always. Sometimes they come at the start or at the end of the sentence also. So it depends on the adverb. So some examples here. I absolutely agree that training is important for every organization to improve its employees. Usually we have a staff meeting every week. So look at that usually. You could put that before the verb have. You could say we usually have a staff meeting every week. So sometimes you can put them in different positions, and it can depend on the emphasis that you want. Okay? Now guys, a question to see if you all understood that. Which of these sentences are wrong? Noah says, so they come anywhere. Exactly, Noah. Adverbs can be difficult to figure out exactly where they go. It depends on the type of adverb, the emphasis you are using, but remember, generally they go before the main verb, before the action verb in the sentence. So look, let's see if you can all answer this question. Which of these sentences are wrong? John generally works until 6 p.m. John works until 6 p.m. generally. Generally, John works until 6 p.m. John works generally until 6 p.m. So, guys, 2 of these are correct and 2 of them are incorrect. So, what do we think? What do we think? What do we think? I'm seeing lots of 2s and 4s. Bara, Bassem, Christel, Fatma. Okay, Alexandros and... Oh, I missed your name. There's too many answers coming in. Okay, Gerald, exactly. Brilliant. It is number 2 and number 4, okay? So you can all understand. So it seemed confusing that these adverbs can go in lots of different places. But when you look at the sentence, you can tell which ones are incorrect and which ones are correct. So, we know that we would not have generally at the end of a sentence. John works until 6 p.m. generally. Wrong. And this one. John works generally until 6 p.m. We would not have it after the action verb, so that one is also wrong. So, very good work to everyone who got that correct. And guys, now that we broke it up with a bit of grammar, let's jump back in for our sample proposal. So guys, remember, these proposals have the same structure as reports. However, the point of a proposal is to suggest something new or suggest something different, a recommendation. But the general structure will be the same. So look, we have a title, Proposal on How to Attract More Members to the English Language Society. Then we've got our first paragraph, Introduction, and that's our heading as always. The aim of this proposal is to recommend strategies in order to attract more members to the English Language Society. Moreover, it suggests a variety of alternatives to make current activities more appealing. Again, telling us exactly what the proposal is going to talk about. The aim of this proposal is to recommend. Now, on to the main body, and we have our first paragraph. And of course, we have our heading, the current situation. Firstly, we offer several cultural activities such as the book club and the cinema group. Both initiatives have proved to be popular among older individuals. Therefore, there are very few young people showing interest in participating. Consequently, the society is actually losing members. So look at that. First, it is describing the current situation. Now, what's our next paragraph? How to attract new members. So this is our proposal. This is our recommendation. I recommend that we create events aimed at young adults to encourage new members to join. For example, we can organize concerts inviting local bands to perform covers of songs written in English. We should also try to attract more males to our society via sport. Hence, I propose forming a football club to watch matches and speak about them. However, Female members are more than welcome if they are football fanatics to avoid gender bias. So, that was our recommendation part. Now look at the heading of our next paragraph. Further recommendations. Furthermore, we will be starting conversation clubs for different age groups and discussing issues relevant to each group next month. Finally, we aim to revamp the book and film clubs by exploring contemporary themes. And then, just like the report, we have our conclusion. In conclusion, we must act promptly to put in place these new projects to attract new members, such as the suggested concerts and fan clubs. We also need to improve existing activities and appeal to a more diverse member base. So, you can see there how we had 3 different paragraphs in the main body, and they were in sequence. We described the current situation, we gave our recommendation for how to attract new members, and then we gave further recommendation, guys. So you can see the sequence it took. Now, again, like the report, we had lots of new terminology, so let's jump straight into it. The aim of this proposal is to recommend. That means the goal of this proposal is to suggest. In order to just means to or so that. To attract means to engage someone. Moreover, it suggests just means it also recommends. A variety of alternatives means many different ways or options. More appealing, of course, means more attractive. Initiatives are schemes or innovative projects or proposals. Have proved to be means have shown to be. Therefore, as we saw already today and in lesson 4, means so, thus, or hence. Consequently means as a result. To aim at is to be focused on. To encourage is to motivate. To join is to become a member or to participate. For example, as we know, just means for instance, such as, or like, if you're being more informal. Then we've got I propose means I suggest or I recommend. However means but. Okay, Shaima, the meaning of revamp. So revamp just means to redesign something. So if something is quite old and outdated, you revamp it, okay? So you change it, you bring it up to date, you make it better, you revamp. Okay, so football fanatics are football fans who are crazy about football. To avoid gender bias means to include both males and females. So we saw that biased means taking one side. So to avoid gender bias is to include both males and females. Recommendations are suggestions. Furthermore just means moreover or also. Relevant issues are current topics. To revamp, so here you are, Shaima, is to improve or renew. To explore contemporary themes is to examine modern topics. No, Rania, it does not relate to a vampire. So revamp, unfortunately, does not relate to vampires. It would be a bit more exciting if it did. To act promptly means to do something quickly. To put in place is to introduce or to implement. A more diverse member base means members with different profiles or backgrounds. So look at that. Diverse is where the word diversity comes from. So members with different profiles. Men, women, old, young, English, Irish, Spanish, Mexican, Brazilian, Arab. Diverse. A diverse member base. Okay? So guys, that's enough about reports and proposals. And let's ease off tonight's lesson with some beautiful grammar. What do we think? What do we think? Yes, I can see I can see a few people are excited about the grammar, as I always am also. Bruno's happy that I mentioned Brazilians. You're very welcome, Bruno. So we're going to start off looking at the definite and indefinite articles. Okay? Now again, this may be simply a refresher for some of you because I know a lot of you know about the definite and indefinite articles, but let's make sure you know every single bit about them. So when and why do we use these articles? Well, Huda's very excited about the grammar. That's what I love to see. So let's look at examples from the slides. A benefit, an opinion, initiatives, the advantages. So why do we use a, an, the, and I have this little hyphen here is just to signify that we have not used anything in front of initiatives, okay? So why do we use a, an, nothing, or the? Okay, well, let's have a look first at the indefinite articles. So a or an, okay? And when do we use them? So first of all, we use them for generality. So nothing specific. I need a car. Not any specific type of car like Ferrari or Lamborghini, just I need a car. Okay, general, for generality. The first time we mention someone, something, or a situation. And of course, the difference between the two, we know that we use a for consonants and we use an for vowel sounds, okay? So remember guys, it's not just before vowels, it's all about the sound. We use it before vowel sounds, okay? So look at this example here. It could take an hour to get to a hospital, okay? Two words beginning with H, but we've used an with the first and a with the second because it's all about the sound. Listen to how the words are pronounced. Hour, an hour. It's an O sound, a vowel sound. Hospital, hospital, a hospital. Okay, that's a H sound. Ha, ha. Okay, think about this. Umbrella. Okay, umbrella beginning with a U. Would we use a or an for umbrella, guys? What do we think? Umbrella. Will we use a or an? Okay, brilliant. Everyone's saying an. Okay, so Mustafa, Viji, brilliant, Crystal. Now, what about university? Okay, university also begins with U, but will we use a or an? Exactly, Matthews. We would use a because it's a Y sound. University. So we would say a university. So it's all about the sound. And guys, remember that there is no plural form for the indefinite articles. That's when we just use nothing. So for example, a book and then just books. Okay, when it's plural, we do not use an article. And uncountable nouns, for example, water, cannot take the indefinite articles. So we cannot say a water because it is uncountable. You cannot have one water. Okay? So now what about the definite article, which is, of course, the. So when do we use it? We saw we used the indefinite for generality, and we use this in specific or particular instances. Okay, Mohammed is asking what consonants are. Mohammed, consonants are just the other letters. So we've got vowels and we've got consonants. So vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and then the rest of the letters are consonants. Okay, so that's what consonants are. Now, we also use it The second or subsequent times we talk about someone, something, or a situation. Look at this example. Here's a conversation between my support agents, Thomas and Jack. So Thomas says, I have to write a report for the CEO. And Jack says, that's terrible. Do you want to go for lunch? And Thomas says, I can't. The report is due at 3 o'clock. Okay? So look, the first time he mentions the report, he says, I have to write a report for the CEO. Then the second time, because it's already been mentioned, I can't. The report is due at 3 o'clock because we know what report he's talking about. Plural form does exist. So, for example, you could have the main advantage or the main advantages. So, we can use the definite article with singular and plural. And uncountable nouns like money and water can take the definite article. The money, the water. Okay? So, you may have all known about the articles, but did you know about all of those little rules in which we use them? So I hope you could all get something new from that. If not, just refresh what you had learned already. So a question to make sure, guys. Which of these are wrong? A business plan, an unique opportunity, a strategies, a hospital, an entrepreneur. So which of these are wrong, guys? What do you think? What do you think? Tell me which ones are wrong. And the first person I saw with both of them was Alexandros. So great work. Lots of you said 2, lots of you said 3. But Alexandros was the first one. Now you can see Anita and lots of other people. Very good. Abdulaziz, Hashem, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. It is, of course, 2 and 3. Unique has the Y sound. Unique. So we would say a unique opportunity, not an. And then strategies is plural, so we cannot use the indefinite article. It would just be strategies. Okay? So remember, a and an is all about the sound, because it's all to do with helping with pronunciation. That's why we use it, guys. That's why we have 2 different ones. Now, guys, you'll be happy to know this is the last section of tonight's webinar. And we are going to look at the present perfect, okay? A nice bit of grammar to finish off. And we're looking at the present perfect tense, okay? So, why do we use it? This is a tense we use all of the time. We use it to talk about situations that started in the past and have a present result or consequence, or are connected to the present, or to talk about situations that have just finished. Now, that might seem confusing, but don't worry because I'm going to explain it perfectly for you all now. Let's look at an example. Have organized, have sought. Okay? These are the past participles. Organized, sought. We saw that earlier. Now, for the present perfect and all of the perfect tenses, we use the auxiliary verb have. So the form of the present perfect is our subject, I, you, he, she, we, they, the cat, my English for Business course, whatever the subject is. Then we bring in the auxiliary verb, have or has, depending on the subject, of course. Then our verb in the past participle. So let's look at some further examples. The company has just made record sales. The company is third person, so we use has. The company has just made record sales. I have taken my vacation already this year. Look at that. We don't care when you took your vacation. It's just to say that I have taken my vacation. It's done. It's finished. I have taken my vacation. And taken, of course, is the past participle of the verb take. I have been in the company for 5 years. So what's that? Something that started in the past and is connected to the present. I have been in the company 5 years. I have visited America twice before. We don't care when, just yes. I have visited America twice before. So you can see the present perfect is something we use all of the time. And Noah is saying, yeah, keywords are just, already, ever, never. Okay, so yes, a very good point, Noah. If you see just, already, before, okay, then they are signal words that it is a perfect tense, okay, and this is the present perfect. So a question, guys. Which of these is not an example of the present perfect simple? The company has made massive profits this month. The company employed 300 new workers last year. Technology has helped most companies develop. Shaw Academy has started several new courses. So which of these is not the present perfect simple? Everyone, Rania, Mondar, Mustafa, brilliant, Mohammed, Georgina, it's great to see Hanan, Zizi, Fatma, Neville, Ahmed, Allah, Salma, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. This far into the webinar, you're all getting the correct answer. It is number 2. The company employed 300 new workers last year. What is that? That is not the present perfect. That is, can anyone tell me what tense? Who can tell me what tense that one is? That the company employed 300 new workers last year. Exactly, guys. Brilliant. It's the past simple. Very good. I think Ali was the first person to get the answer in there. It's the past simple. So, guys, that's it for tonight's lesson. So let's look at what we covered. We covered English punctuation. You learned how to structure reports and proposals with samples included. You were exposed to adverbs, the definite and indefinite articles. You examined the present perfect. And of course we had lots of new terminology. And I did my best as always with the fantastic pronunciation. So we can continue building your English for business now. And remember, guys, to attend all lessons live, to ask questions in real time and benefit the most. And we're here to help, so contact us anytime on our email addresses there. So I know a lot of you have been contacting me already. So if you have any questions, keep it up. And guys, don't forget that the next lesson is the big one, lesson 6. I'll talk about that in a second. For those of you who have purchased the toolkit, guys, I have added a new bonus video on how to give professional presentations, okay? It's a short bonus video. It's about 8 minutes long. So if you've bought your toolkit, then make sure to check that in your members area and watch that new bonus video on making presentations, okay? If you are a member, guys, some further learning here. Lesson 8 of Career Advancement, Lesson 6 of Fast Track Business Success, or Lesson 5, Your Tools in Psychology of Sales, guys. Okay, so if you are a member, I would recommend checking out those classes. Now, guys, the next lesson is the big one, Lesson 6, the job application process, the perfect CV and interview skills. This is always my students' favorite lesson, and for good reason. Many of you are learning English so you can get a job, and we are going to take you through the process from start to finish, from applying for the job to acing the interview, okay? So you'll explore the job application process, how to create the perfect CV. We'll develop your interview skills. You'll be exposed to the future perfect and the present and past participles. So of course we need some grammar in there. And you'll acquire more terminology and my brilliant pronunciation, guys. And remember that we will be giving away that lifetime membership prize in the next lesson. So the next one is lesson 6. That's when we'll be giving one of you lucky students that lifetime membership prize. So make sure to attend live, guys. It's going to be a fantastic one. As always, This recording will be available in your members area within 24 hours, guys. So, some of you were testing out the new webinar system on today's webinar. So if you did have any problems with the sound or the video, you can of course watch the recording again when it goes up in your members area on shawacademy.com and in the top right hand corner where you log in. Okay? So guys, that just leaves time for the question and answers round. Now we've gone a bit over time on tonight's webinar, so I'm only going to give about 10 minutes for this, okay? So as always, I'm going to get myself a sip of water because talking for an hour straight can strain your voice, as you may even be able to hear. So I'm going to get a sip of water, get those questions coming in, and I'll answer as many as possible for about 10 minutes when I come back, okay? Okay guys, I am back and I'm ready to answer some questions. So let's see. Noah has a question here for me saying, I had no Twitter account, but I had it 2 days ago, but I don't know what to do to follow Shaw on Twitter. Okay, well, you can follow both Shaw Academy itself, which is just at Shaw Academy, the Twitter handle, or I would suggest you follow me, which is at Shaw Academy EFB, so English for Business, at Shaw Academy EFB. So if you haven't already, make sure to go over and follow me on Twitter because we do a lot of fun interactions. I put up good articles and little tips for the classes also. And if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, then of course you can search Shaw Academy English for Business, and that is my YouTube channel. Okay. Let's see, Mariham says, I am a little bit confused of the difference between nouns and adjectives. Okay, Mariham, well, very simply, a noun is a person, a place, or a thing. Okay? So, by a thing, I mean it could be an idea. So, for example, a person, Mark, that's a noun. Okay? Person itself is a noun. A place, of course, Dublin, Riyadh, Ireland, Brazil, they are all nouns. And then things. So, for example, computer, that's a noun. Honesty, that's a value, it's a noun. Okay, so they are all nouns. Then adjectives are the words we use to describe nouns. So, for example, fast, slow, big, small, intelligent. Okay, so these are all adjectives. So, for example, if you can say a noun is an adjective, Mark is intelligent. Okay, Mark is a great teacher. Great is an adjective, teacher is a noun. Okay, so adjectives are used to describe nouns. The red car. Red is the adjective, car is the noun. Okay, so I hope that explains it for you. Hassam is asking why we did not add tab space in the beginning of a paragraph. Okay, Hassam, that is not completely necessary, okay? Lots of people use it when they have paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, but in reports and proposals, you are using a separate heading for each paragraph, so it's not really necessary to add a space or to use tab at the beginning of the paragraph. You can if you like, but it's not necessary. Okay. Let's see, Rania says, are reports coming after work while proposals are only before? Well, Rania, not necessarily, okay? So, it depends. There are various different types of reports. So, yes, lots of reports would come after work, but then there could be, for example, an accident report, which has nothing to do with work. It's about an accident. And proposals are not necessarily before the work starts, because you could often have a report that finishes with a proposal, okay? It could have been a study, it could have carried out the work, and then you put together the proposal for your recommendations, okay? So they don't necessarily come before or after work. Salah is saying, can we send you our CV to evaluate? Salah, I want you to hold that question till after lesson 6. Because in lesson 6 we are going to talk all about CVs and the perfect CV. So I don't want you to send me over anything until after lesson 6, okay? Now let's see. Okay, I can see people asking about the attendance on the website. Guys, I mentioned this before. Our website has been recently revamped. Okay, so we saw that word today, revamped. It has been improved. It's been completely renewed. And there are still some errors or bugs on it. So, we track your attendance using the system we are on now. Don't worry if it takes a while to update in your members area and says that you've missed lessons that you've attended. Don't worry about that. That's just the website being slow to update. We have your attendance tracked on this system, so don't worry about that. Okay. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Okay, Kadoga is asking about what was incorrect in the emails and what's the solution. Okay, like I said at the start, Kadoga, start lesson, or if you want to check the video on my YouTube channel, there was 2 mistakes. The first mistake was the comma in the relative clause. It was a defining relative clause, so there should not have been a comma. So that was in the first sentence. And the second mistake was the sign off. It said yours faithfully, but of course we knew the recipient of the email, so we should have used yours sincerely. We knew her name, so we should have used yours sincerely. So they were the 2 mistakes. Okay? Randa is asking, how can I rate my English level in this course? I mean, is it for beginner or meditate? I think you mean intermediate, Randa. Okay. This course would be for an intermediate level, Randa. So we do cover some of the basics to refresh people's memory, but this course would be an intermediate level overall. Okay, so some parts of it can get quite difficult. But I would always say for anyone to stick with it. Whether you think it's too difficult or too easy, there will always be something for you. You will always come away from each lesson with something new. Okay? So, let's see. I'll answer 1 or 2 more questions. Abdurrahman saying I did not find anything on YouTube. Abdurrahman, if you just type into YouTube Shaw Academy English for Business, you should find my YouTube channel. Okay, Mariham wants to know the Twitter account again. It is at Shaw Academy EFB. So English for Business, EFB. At Shaw Academy EFB. Okay. And there you'll find me. And I always put up tweets relating to the lessons, little tips, helpful tips about English, whether it's spoken or written, and usually they're to do with the lessons, okay? So guys, I think I'll take 1 more question and then we'll call it a night. So Rana says, how to reach to advanced level in English. Well, this course is a good start, Rana. If you complete this course, you will have a good understanding of an intermediate level of English. And then, of course, we also have the Advanced English for Business program after this, which begins in January, and that is exactly what you would need. Although I don't like to call it the Advanced English for Business course because that can scare people. So I like to call it the Ultimate English for Business course. And that's less scary, I think, for some people. Victor, okay, this is the last question. Victor says that he missed the first 3 lessons. How can I get them, please? Victor, very simple. Go to the Shaw Academy website, shawacademy.com. In the top right hand corner, log in using your email address that you signed up to us with and your password. If you forget your password, you can click on the Forget Password button and we will send it to your email. Then you can log in and you click on English for Business November 14th or November 15th, and then you will have all of the lesson recordings there. So I put them up usually 24 hours after the lesson, and you can watch them all as many times as you like in there, okay? So guys, I'm going to wrap up the lesson now. Thank you all so much for attending. I apologize to any of you who had sound or video problems who were testing out the new system. Hopefully we can get it all fixed and running much better. But guys, thank you so much for your interaction as always, and don't forget to join us for lesson 6, the big one, the job application process, the perfect CV and interview skills. Okay, so have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening or night wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all for lesson 6. Goodbye guys.